recording that.
Okay.
All right, so the lesson's officially started now.
All right. So we have the questions. Where were we? Here.
Good luck.
Okay.
See you later.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I'll be watching from home.
Okay. All right, everyone. So we have at least one person who has the correct answer for this puzzle, which is Joey. So let's see who else has it. Maham, you seem to have at least the first move. Noam, your first move is incorrect. It's not bishop to g5, which is what Derek says also. Bishop g5 is not correct. Not the correct move either. And Callum, it's not bishop to e3. Or Maha, you seem to have it here. Black takes the knight, and queen takes. I'm not sure what you mean here. Black takes knight. I see. Then queen takes queen. No, that's not correct. Derek, you got the first three moves. Noam, you have the first move correct. Jill, it's not knight c3. Sam, you have the first move correct. Nathaniel, it's not knight to g5. Let's see, Derek, is it? Liam, it's not knight to g5. Daniel, you have the first three moves correct. Okay, so let's just look at the answer. What we can do here is we can actually take on e5. Well, if black doesn't take back, then we've just won a very important central pawn. So black wants to take back. I suppose he does that. That's when we do a double attack by giving check to the king and attacking the bishop. And black's going to have to do something about the check. And in all cases, we win the bishop. If he moves the pawn to g6, that's not a very good idea, because then he would just lose his rook as well. If he moves the pawn to g6, then we take on e5, and then we take the rook as well. So he has to move the king here. And so then we just simply take the bishop on e5, and we've won a pawn on a central square, and he can't castle, so black's not in a very good position here. Before we go to the game that I wanted to show you today, let's do one more puzzle. So, oops. I think I may have actually accidentally shown the solution, but anyway, as you may see on the screen, this is an internet game I played a few years ago as white. So how does white finish the game very quickly now? If you see the way I finished the game, type it in. Okay. So Joey, you say that it's checkmate in one move. It's not checkmate in one move. Because if you do the move that you did, then what can black do, Joey? Okay, there you go, Joey. Yes, Joey, now you have it. Thomas, you got the first move, we need more than one move. Sam, that's not the correct move. Nathaniel, that's not correct. Joey says recap. Derek, you have the first move. That's not enough. We're gonna need two moves. So actually, it's a forced move in two moves. And what you've written here, Derek, is not correct. Jill, that is not correct. Thomas, you forgot to mention which piece goes to that square. X. Hello, Briesh. My name is Smari. I'm from Iceland, but I am here in Melbourne, and I'm gonna do this lecture for you since Robert is unavailable today. Noam White. Okay. Noam, you're gonna need to give me more than one move. Okay, welcome, Briesh. Thomas, you say pawn, and then what? Let's see if anyone has. See if anyone has the whole thing. Derek, that is not correct. Callum, you have written one move, but we need two moves, so it's gonna be made in two moves. Jill still just writing one move. Jill and Noam. Callum, okay. Okay, Callum, you need to say which pieces go where. You're moving your bishop to a certain square, and then black does something and you do something, but with what piece? You have to say. All right, Justin and Julian, you've got the correct answer. Congratulations, well done. Justin and Julian, you have it. Black g5. Bishop f5, no. Nathaniel, queen g6. If you go to g6, then the knight on e7 is going to take you, so that doesn't do it. Sam, you have one move, the first move, but what is the continuation? Daniel, it's not bishop e4. Callum, that is correct, Callum, well done. Priyas, you have the first move, but what is the rest? Sam, that is correct, well done. Priyas, this is the first move, so what's the continuation? It's not bishop takes h6. Jill, you've just written g5. You need to say what piece goes to g5. Okay, Sam, you have the correct answer here. Okay. So the answer is going to be I'm just going to write it here. Bishop g5, check. Actually, it's taking too long to write it, so I'm just going to show you on the board. What I did was I checkmated my opponent in two moves by bishop g5, and black's going to be forced to take this. His only option is to take with a pawn on h6, like that. And now, how am I going to checkmate in one move? It's not by taking with a queen, because then he's going to run to f7 with a king. My only option, if I want to do checkmate in one move now, is to take with a pawn on h4, and that's exactly what I did. So that's going to be checkmate. So we would write bishop g5, h takes g5, and then h takes g5, checkmate. All right, so hope you liked those two puzzles. So now I want to show you a game that I played in a real tournament, and let's just, it's the last one right here. And this is back in 2010, 3 years ago, sorry, in a tournament in the Czech Republic, in a town called Olomouc. And I was white in this game against a teenage boy who was from maybe 16, 17 years old, something like that. And he was pretty good, but I had a particularly good game, and made some sacrifices that turned out to be pretty sound. So I'll show you how you can win by sacrificing material in the opening and getting a sort of a hold on your opponent. And I was white and I played e4, and my opponent replied with knight f6, which is called the Alekhines defense. So the usual move in this position would be to play pawn to d4. Probably gonna need to press edit so I can. Oops. Let's go back to the start. So in this position, what we would usually do is, sorry, not pawn to d4, but I meant pawn to e5. So that would be the usual continuation, and that's what I've done many times. But in this case, I wanted to try something different, so I went knight c3, following one of the golden rules, developing a piece and controlling the center. And my opponent replied with d5, immediately challenging my pawn on e4. So I have to do something about that. Incidentally, I had played the exact same game just a few days earlier in a previous round. Though this was the last round, if I remember correctly, of the tournament, round 9. And in round 6, I'd had the exact thing played against me. So I could play the first couple of moves rather fast, because I also won that game, and so I could just do the same thing again. So what I do is I play e5. My opponent sort of copies my plan and attacks my knight as well. And I take his knight and he takes my knight. And in this position, I have to decide, am I going to take his pawn on c3, or am I going to take his pawn on e7 or g7? So what I wanted to do was to take on g7, because in that way I can severely damage his king's position. If he wants to castle king side, then he's not going to have any pawn on the g file. So that's why I decided to take the pawn on g7. I'm just going to go back to this so I can put it like this. Sorry, just going to go back like that. So I take on g7. My opponent takes on d2. I have to take back. Take with a bishop. He takes with a bishop. And in this position, according to theory, queen to f3 would have been a move, probably the best move, and a move that was preferred by strong grandmasters. And just totally ignoring the pawn on b2, just sacrificing that pawn. And you'll actually see later why it's all right to sacrifice that pawn. That's actually what happened in the game, and really helped me to win the game. But I actually went with so the best move would probably be queen to f3. but I went with bishop to b5 because I had a plan that involved him playing c6. I was kind of maybe hoping for pawn on c6 and just dragging his pawns toward the center. So then if he would castle queenside, then he would have had less of a shelter, actually. So that's kind of what happened. He went to c6, and now I was kind of happy because it doesn't really matter if he's going to castle kingside or queenside. He's committed himself with some pawn moves. He's lost a pawn on g file, he's made a pawn move on the c file. So I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to attack his king with this pawn move of his. So I back away, and he accepts my pawn on b2, but as you may see here below, I have written I was quite happy with this, and it's because after rook to b1, I'm going to have a very active rook on the b file. He's going to go back, and what I did now, actually, I played queen to h5 and just went on the initiative immediately. So you see I'm already threatening to take on f7, and the reason why I did this was that I wanted him to play e6, and with his bishop still on c8, so his bishop's gonna, after e6, the bishop's gonna be kind of closed in. He doesn't have a lot of squares to go to. He can't go out on this diagonal to say f5 or something. So I was quite happy with a queen h5 move, and then I just developed my pieces. Knight to f3, and he was probably very scared of castling right now, because if he did castle, then I would simply play bishop to d3 and threatening mate in 1 on h7, and that would have forced him to play pawn to f5, which would have weakened him even more. So already he's under a lot of pressure. You see, I've developed most of my pieces. My rook is quite beautiful on b1 along the half open b file, and he can't even castle. His bishop can't get out. His knight can't go to its favorite square on c6. So yeah, he's already kind of struggling. So he plays queen to f6, and just to get you to participate a little bit, what would you do in this position? Okay, so just type in what you would do with as white in this position. You would go bishop g5, castles is castle. Correct answer is definitely to castle. Although actually my computer program wanted to play bishop d3, but I think castling looks very natural in this position, because not only are we getting the king off the e file where it wasn't really well placed, but also we're ready to use our rook, which is now on f1. So my opponent played queen to g6, offering an exchange of queens. So my question now to you is, should we accept this offer of exchanging queens, do you think? Just type in yes or no. Okay, I got one no, yes, no, 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 yes, we should. Accept, no, 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 no. Okay, most of you, Joey says your material is down, so that is a very good observation, Joey. Because remember, we sacrificed the pawn on the b file, so if we accept his offer of exchanging queens, then we're just gonna be a pawn down, and we lost all or almost all of our attacking potential, because the queen is really important if we want to harass his king. So we definitely don't want to accept the exchange of queens in this position. So we need to go someplace else. Where should we go with our queen, do you think? He wants to castle, and what I want to do is I want to prevent him from castling. So okay, Nathan says h4. So do you mean queen h4? That wouldn't really stop him from castling. Joey, that is absolutely right. Well done, Joey. That is, and Derek as well. Well done. Nathaniel, no, it's not that one. Although that is probably not so dumb, actually. Nathaniel got queen h4. That might actually be quite an idea, since after castling, you might want to play something like bishop to d3, which would force him, I think, to play f5. So maybe queen h4 isn't so bad. But the thing is, I wanted to prevent him from castling. So okay, Justin, you said bishop b4 in this position, but then he's just going to take our queen. So that really doesn't work. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to prevent him from castling, which is why I went queen to c5. Now, he could have taken the pawn on c2, but this game is about showing you that it's not about the pawns. In this game, we're not counting pawns. What we're doing is we're activating our pieces before black can do the same, and we're just going to attack his king with all our pieces, and by preventing him from castling, then he can't coordinate his pieces. So we don't really care if he takes the pawn on c2 now, because then we're just going to continue to attack him, and if he just keeps grabbing our pawns, then we're just going to continue to build up the attack against his king, and he's going to get in more and more trouble. So he can't really afford to go pawn grabbing, and he didn't, because he played actually knight to d7, threatening to take our queen. So how do we actually, in this position, how do we continue to prevent him from castling? You can type in your answer. Okay, Joey, that is absolutely correct. Daniel, that is correct. Jill as well. Derek, it's not. It's the same idea, but it's not as active a square as the other one. So most of you already have the answer, so I'm just gonna make the move. Queen to d6. So it's kind of a good spot. So now he's thinking that his king is kind of stuck in the center. So he's thinking this queen on d6 is really annoying. So he desperately wants to get it out of the way. So that's why he plays bishop to f8. And the thing is that he's moving his bishop back to where it started, and he's also got the other bishop on c8. So his king is just really stuck in the center, and we're gonna find a way to take advantage of that. So where do you want to go with the queen now? I'm kind of curious to see where you want to go now. Daniel, yes, very well done, Daniel. That's exactly what I did. Daniel, okay, we have two Daniels. So Daniel Poberosowski, that is correct. Daniel Arsintar, that is not correct. Jill, that is not the square. Callum, that is correct. Well done. Briesh, no. Maha, that's not correct. Briesh, no. Briesh, now you have it. Daniel, yes. Jill, okay. Seems like most of you have found the move. Queen c7, it's an annoying place for black. The queen's kind of intimidating on the 7th rank. It's close to the king that can't castle immediately, and it's just putting a lot of pressure on the black position. So black actually does an interesting move now. He sees that it's difficult for him to castle, so he just gives up castling and decides to go rook to g8. So type in if you see why black did the rook g8 move. Why did black? Yes, Joey, that is correct. That's exactly why black played rook to g8. And Brioche. Okay. Yep, I think you all see it. He's threatening to checkmate in one move. So we're gonna have to do something about it. And so I played g3. And now it's gonna get really interesting because now black is gonna play queen to e4. And you see he's already threatening to take our bishop on c4 and our knight on f3. And he's already won the pawn on b2. So we're already a pawn down, and now it seems like we're going to lose a whole piece as well. So it probably doesn't look too good. But remember that the black king, he's not in a very good way. So we're going to take advantage of the fact that he's just stuck on its initial square. Let's see what you want to do now. Do you have any suggestions for us in this position? How are we gonna on earth are we gonna save the pieces that he's threatening, or aren't we gonna save them perhaps? Okay, somebody says bishop g5. Then we have that will be threatening mate. There is one problem with bishop g5 actually. We got knight. A lot of people want to go bishop g5. Sam wants to go bishop d3, but then he's just going to take the knight on f3. Most of you want to go bishop g5. There is, however, one problem, I think, with bishop g5, which is that he could actually take the knight with his rook, and then when we take back with the knight, our knight, his rook, then he's going to take our bishop on c4, and it's actually black who is gaining more material. So it's not bishop to e6, although that is a very interesting move. Bishop to e6. That is a very interesting move, Joey. I probably during the game thought about bishop to e6 actually. Rook e1 could be an interesting move as well, although he's just gonna, I think, take the bishop then. So what I did, none of you has actually suggested the move, but I did actually threaten mate in one move by going bishop to a5. Sorry, bishop a5. And I am threatening the mate on on d8. He could have tried now to go to, sorry, he could have tried to go to b6, to pawn to b6. That would have been very interesting, but I would have actually, I wouldn't have had to lose material in that, because if he plays pawn to b6, I can go knight d2 and protecting my bishop, and he's gonna have to move his queen, and then I can go away with my bishop. Or I could, if he goes away with the queen, I could even probably just take on c6 then, and if he takes my bishop, then I take his rook on a8. So b6 is something that he probably didn't want to do, because he realizes that his king's gonna become just more and more vulnerable. So that's why he decided to to defend against the mate threat on d8 by bishop to e7, and this is where it gets really interesting. Now, I could have I could have gone knight to d2 and saved both of my pieces, but in fact I made the move that is one of my favorite moves in this game, and it's probably going to be very difficult to find this move that I did now. But it's all about just adding pressure to the black king. Let's give you a few seconds to see if you wanna guess the move, but it's but it's but it's it gets really complicated, and so okay, Thomas says rook b7. That is interesting. Joey says move a rook, I think. Knight e5 says Brioche. Bishop e6, rook b7, rook e1. So, okay, to give you a hint, where do the rooks want to be? Where do the rooks want to be? The rooks want to be... Okay, Liam, you got the right move, but you have to say which rook. You say rook, and then you say the correct square, but you have to say which rook goes to that square. Callum, the same goes for you. You got the correct move, except you have to say which rook you want to put there. And Arthur, you've also got the right move, and you also have to say which rook. And Maha, you're absolutely right. The rooks, they want to go on open files. Sam, absolutely correct. Correct move. Thomas, correct. Liam, that is correct. Well done. So let's just play the move. It's gonna be rook f to d1, and as you may have noticed, I put 2 exclamation marks to this move. That means it's a super strong move, and I was very happy with this move because I'm just giving away my pieces, and yet it works. It actually does work, and black gets to choose whether to take the bishop or the knight, and he actually did the best move. He took the correct. Actually took the correct piece, which was the knight. If he would have taken the bishop, then it. I'll just show you the variation. Then it goes like this. Then this is a really nice move. Also, rook takes b7, and remember that I've sacrificed the pawn on b2. So that was this is why I sacrificed the pawn, because it gives me chances like this. I take the rook, the pawn on b7, and let's say he takes back, then I take on d7. So now I'm threatening both of the bishops, and although I'm a lot of material down, I'm still winning in this position. And you'll see in the game why this is so strong. So I play rook f to d1, and he does the correct move, which is to take the knight on f3. And now I decided that I wanted to actually sacrifice on b7, but I can't sacrifice my rook on b7 in this position, because then he's just going to take my rook on d1 with his queen. So my question to you is, how can I make a move first so that he can't actually take on d1? Hope you understood the question. So in this position, Joey wants to go rook takes d7. It doesn't really work to take on d7. It's not strong enough. Rook d2. The problem with rook d2 is that it doesn't gain a tempo. So this position is all about the tempos. We want to attack black before he can organize himself, before he can coordinate. So we really wanna make a move that doesn't give black time to organize. So Daniel Poborosovsky, you have the correct move. Well done. And Joey, you have the correct move, and Derek as well, Callum as well, and Daniel and Joey. Yes, very good. Well done. So That is absolutely it. We go rook to d3, exclamation mark again, because now he's gonna have to move his queen yet again. So the more queen moves that he does, the better for us, because then he's just not developing the rest of his pieces. And so then he goes queen to, sorry, this time he went queen to e4. I'm not going to show you queen to f6 because I don't think we actually have time. This would have been a stronger move and would have forced me to find even better continuations than in the game. And it's all really complicated. And with all the best defense, black would be okay, but not necessarily winning. So still, my sacrifice, when I sacrificed the knight on f3 just a few moves ago, was actually amazingly sound, more so than I actually dared to hope during the game. So when I looked at the game afterwards, I was very happy that how satisfied the Fritz chess playing software was with these moves that I made. So this time white goes queen to e4, which is, like I said, not the best move, and he's threatening to take my bishop on c4. And now comes another beautiful move. Most people would probably want to move their bishop out of harm's way, but instead what I did was I've already sacrificed the knight on f3, so why not just sack yet another piece? So I'm going to sacrifice the bishop on c4 as well, and it's going to work. So I'm going to play rook takes b7. So the position is getting really wild. I've sacrificed a pawn, I've sacrificed a knight, and now I'm giving in yet another choice between taking my bishop on c4 and taking my rook on b7. And if he takes the bishop, then I'm gonna take on d7 with a rook, and that's gonna be really strong. So he went for the he went for the rook, and I'm pretty sure most of you can actually guess my next move. Let's see. Let's see who has the next move in this position. Okay. Let me see. Briesh, you have the correct move. Daniel Arsentar, no. Jill, that's not the right move. Arthur, that's the correct move. Well done. Thomas, well done. Nathaniel, well done. Joey, that's not the move. Liam, that's not the move. Jill and Noam, that is correct. Maha, that's not correct. Daniel Pobersovsky, that's not correct. Jill and Noam, okay. Some of you have the moves, some of you don't. What we want to do with the rooks, or just the heavy pieces in general, is they're really strong on the 7th rank, and if you're black, on the 2nd rank. So that's why the next move is really strong. Rook to d7, and if you count the material, then you'll notice that I'm a whole rook down in this position, and he can even take on c4 if he wants. But the fact that I have the queen and the rook on the 7th rank is really, really strong, and the fact that he can't castle is gonna make some serious problems for black. So if he takes on c4, then I'm just gonna take on e7, and he's gonna have to go to f8, and then I take on f7. He's gonna have to go to e8, and then he's gonna be checkmate in one move. So he definitely has to do something about the big threat of rook takes on e7 check. So that's why he moved the bishop away like that. So now we have a choice. Do we want to escape with our bishop, or do we just want to maybe take on b7? So what I did was I wanted to take on b7, and he takes on c4, and he's thinking, he's probably pretty happy now because he's a whole rook ahead, and I could take on a8. He takes my rook on d7, and I take on g8. But then it's going to be black's move, and he's already one pawn up, and he can take on a2 or c2. So we actually have a much stronger move than to take the rook on a8. So my question to you now is, do you see what is much stronger than taking on a8? Let's see your answers. Nathaniel, well done. That is absolutely correct. Jill, also very, very well done. That is correct. Daniel, correct. Thomas, correct. Derek, correct. Callum, correct. Riesh, no. Daniel, correct. Joey, correct. Jill, correct. Okay. Okay, most of you have it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go rook to f7, and you may notice that we're threatening mate in one move in this position, aren't we? We're threatening to go queen to d7, which is why he played queen to d4. So now what are we gonna do? We're a rook down. We got no mate. But so what do we have in this position? Why are we winning? If we're so much material down, we got no mate. We only got like 3 pieces left. So how come we're winning? Okay, Joey, you want to go rook f6? Take. The problem is rook f6. He takes. We take on a8. He's gonna go king to f7. And he's gonna be an exchange up. So rook f7 doesn't work. And remember, Danny wants to go bishop to c3, but okay. But that's actually interesting. But the problem with bishop c3 is that he's going to go queen to d1 check, and sort of creating problems for us. But interesting, actually, nonetheless. So I'm kind of worried about the queen d1 check, and king g2, queen d5 check, and with a perpetual check. Because if I go to h3, then he's going to go to h5, queen h5, and then he can even take the rook with a queen on f7. So bishop 3 is interesting, but doesn't really work. Bishop b4, c2, bishop b4, rook d7. Okay, actually nobody has said the move that I actually made yet. Nobody. It's because if you go rook d7, what are you gonna do if he just takes the rook with his queen? You could take on a8 and then his other rook, but he's still gonna be a pawn up. So our main concern in this position might actually be the check that he's gonna give on d1, but it actually didn't turn out to be that dangerous anyway. But okay, let's check if somebody has the move. Okay, we got one person actually who has the move that I made. Arthur, you got the correct move. And Jill and Noam as well. Okay, excellent. Yes, Jill and Noam, excellent. And Arthur. So what I did actually now was, I don't have an immediate win, but if I go rook to h7, which I did, then it's always good to get a pawn. And also, I am threatening mate in 1. So you may notice that I'm threatening to go to f7 with my queen now. So as you see, that a key factor to the success that I had in this game was that I had heavy pieces, queen and rooks, on the 7th rank. That is the key to this victory, and you see that it's proving to be really, really strong. I got a nice sacrifice on b7 with a rook. I got my rook to d7. The queen was on c7 for a long time, and now the rook has won a pawn on h7, and I'm threatening to go queen f7 mate in 1. So you see, if you got 2 heavy pieces or even more on the 7th rank, then it's really, really strong. And Briesh, I'm from Iceland, which is very far away. So rook to h7, really, really strong. He has to do something about the threat queen f7 mate. And the thing is that he doesn't really have much, uh, a, a lot of good moves to defend against that threat, because I'm also threatening to take the rook on a8 with a totally winning position. So he's in a really, really bad position already, because my heavy pieces on the 7th rank are so strong. So that's what I love about this game. It's the heavy pieces on the 7th rank. They're really, really strong. And what Black tried, uh, was he okay, first I can just show you, if he goes bishop g7, then I can just take on a8, and it's going to be very good for me. But what he did was he played queen d1 check, and offered a draw. But I actually was quite confident that, despite being material down for the moment, I was quite confident that I was really going to win this game. So of course I rejected the offer. I think he was maybe hoping that I thought that he had a perpetual check or something on d5, uh, but I had it all planned out. I go king g2, he goes queen d5, and if I go back to g1 or f1, then he's just gonna give perpetual check. But the thing is, I can simply play pawn to f3, and I of course I saw that my bishop is covering d2, so I knew when he offered the draw, I knew that he didn't have a perpetual check. That he was just trying to scare me with a check, hoping that I thought that he had a perpetual check when he didn't, and I saw it. So that's why I rejected the offer, and I confidently played f3, just and knew that I was winning, and also knew that he couldn't take my bishop on a5, because then he's just gonna get mated in 2 moves. Then I just go queen d7, king f8, and then I go queen or even rook to f7 mates. So so now he's in really, really big trouble, because how is he gonna defend against the mate on f7? Uh, he's gonna have to give up material to do it. So what he did was, he didn't find anything better than this. And like I write below the board, a rather embarrassing move to have to make, because what is the obvious move that I did now? What chess website do you play on, is a question from Joey. I usually play on just playchess.com, and I found that one to be really good. And you can play for free uh, for at least a month, and then they want to charge you, and then you can just create a new handle, as they call it, or name, under a different email, and then you can really play for free, pretty long like that. So okay, we got a couple of people who, Sam, you say you play on chess.com. I have played there also, but I like playchess.com better, actually. And I've gone under various names on playchess.com, for example, Crammy and Bacon and others. Okay. Okay, Briesh, you're on chess.com. Okay. Joey on GameNot. Chess Power. I have never heard of Chess Power. So anyway, most of you have the next move, which is, because it's really obvious also, it's just taking back the rook. And if you look at the board now, I sacrificed so much material, but actually now I'm ahead on material. Now I can just win the pawn on a7, which I did, and instead of being all that material down that I sacrificed, I'm actually, what, 3 pawns ahead, aren't I? So he went king to g6, and he's threatening my rook, so we just retreat. Rook to h4. He wins back a pawn. He's threatening to take on c2, so we need to do something about that. So I did, well, actually, first I did a check, because king h7, and then what I did was queen to c5, protecting my pawn on c2, protecting my bishop still on a5, and also I'm getting my queen to an active post where it can go to places like h5 or g5 or something like that in in the next few moves. So the black king, he's still in a lot of trouble, and you'll see. So he's offering actually um, an exchange of queens. And so my question to you now is, we had this offer um, previously in the game, much earlier, and then we definitely shouldn't have taken the offer. So what about now? Should we take the offer now? He's offering again to exchange queens. And Thomas, yes. Chess powers in New Zealand. Okay. Well, that's good to know. Thanks for that, Priyesh. So, Jill, you want to accept? No? You said no? Maha, no? Yes, I think. Don't take? Yes? No? No? Yes? Yes, because you were up in material. So, Arthur, you've come up with a good point. We're actually now up in material, which we weren't before. So we could definitely accept it this time, and then we would be 2 pawns up, and we would win it. But the thing is, I'm in no rush. I'm not going to win anyway, and I'm thinking there is one flaw in accepting the exchange, which is that I'm going to make his pawns connected, stronger. Now you see the pawns on c6 and e6, they're weak, they're isolated, and I want to keep them like that, because I'm 2 pawns up, and 2 pawns up, and if he only has 2 weak pawns, then it's gonna make it much easier for me to win. So I don't want to make his pawn stronger, and there's nothing that says that I have to accept his offer at this moment. So if I have one good reason to say no, which is that I don't want to connect his pawn, so that's why the reason is no. So then I don't do it. So that's why I went bishop b4, and now I'm offering him to exchange queens, because if he does it, then I've got a much more favorable ending. It's gonna be just easier to win. I would have won the other one, but this is just going to be easier. And now he's thinking, if I go ahead and take his queen, then I don't really stand much of a chance. So he goes queen to d1, and in this position I just want to harass his king a little bit. I actually didn't make the strongest move. I went queen to h5, but actually queen g5 would have been really strong, just giving away the pawn on c2. Bishop goes to d2, and now I'm threatening the very deadly rook to h4. So now I'm just gonna play rook h4, and it's just gonna be checkmate like that. But I didn't see this, and I was afraid to lose the c2 pawn, so instead I went queen h5, which is strong, just not as strong. And also I saw that I was gonna win more material. I saw that I was gonna win a piece. And you'll see how I win a piece. He's gonna have to move his bishop in front of the king, and then I can just take the rook, and he's gonna want to take the rook back, and then I can win his bishop. I'm gonna lose this pawn on c2, but it's not as strong as his bishop, so I'm very happy to win the bishop, and even though I'm losing this pawn. So he has to go here. I take, he takes, and now I win the bishop, lose the pawn, but you see, this is totally winning because my bishop and extra pawn are going to be very deadly for black. And you see that he still has, because I didn't accept the queen offer early, that means that he still has very weak pawns, and they're going to come under serious attack. So king to h3, queen to f5 check, and now I'm going to have to make a choice. Obviously, if I go king to g2, then he's just going to do queen to c2 again, and that's just going to end in a perpetual, which I of course don't want. So I'm going to have to give up the f3 pawn, but it's okay because I'm going to get something instead. I go to h4, and if he wants the f3 pawn, then he's going to lose this pawn instead. So I'm not losing anything anyway. And now he's going to go king to h7. And what I did now was I thought about, okay, what is the quickest way to win this game? Let's see if you have any thoughts about what would be the quickest way to win this position right here. Okay, Daniel Pobrasovsky, if you do that, then he's just going to take that bishop on f8. So you don't necessarily have to tell me the next move, but if you could tell me what our plan is, that would be pretty cool. Okay, Maha, you say promote queen c6. That doesn't work because it's protected. Then we're just gonna really lose the game. Queen d7, giving checks, because giving checks is not gonna win the game necessarily. Okay, Sam, you've actually got the correct move, but do you know why it's the correct move? Joey, you want to promote? The thing is, we don't want to go for the promotion yet. Okay, Arthur says to checkmate with queen and try to force the king into the corner. Liam, okay. So, the problem with trying to either checkmate or to promote is that if you take a close look at the position, you see that there are very few pieces left, and that means that his king, but also my king, they're both very exposed, and his plan is just to give as many annoying checks with his queen as he possibly can. And so if we try to go for the promotion, or even try to checkmate with a queen and bishop, then he's gonna just check us to oblivion, and we don't really want that. So Noam, you got the correct answer because you said try to swap the queens. So that is really our plan. And so, because if we can swap the queens, we're going to try to force him to swap the queens, and we can. In fact, he's got no escape from that if we do the correct moves. Because when we swap the queens, then it's just going to be really easy. Then he's only got that little pawn on c6, which is not going anywhere because we've got the bishop. And then we're just going to win really easily with these pawns. Then we have all the time in the world to promote the pawns. Our immediate concern now is the annoying black queen. So that's where we wanna swap queens. So somebody says queen to g4. The problem with queen to g4 is that it doesn't force him to swap the queens. Jill and Noam, you say queen g4. That doesn't force him to swap queens. It's just gonna move his queen away. But we can force him to swap queens, not in one move, but in 2 to 3 moves, then we can force him to swap queens actually. So somebody says, Arthur says, okay. Actually, a few people have the correct move. The correct move is queen to e7, and I've written the killer because this is a very precise move, which is gonna very soon force him to swap queens. So let's look at black's options. If he goes to, for example, if he goes to g6 or g8, do you see what our plan is? in both those cases, after king g6 or king to g8, then we can force the swap of queens in, let's see, 1, 2, in 2 to 3 moves. Then we can, in 3 moves after that, then both of the queens are going to be off the table. So let's suppose that he plays king to g8. How can we now in 2 moves force the swap of queens? Who sees how we can force him to exchange queens in this position in 2 moves? Then he's gonna have to exchange queens. Okay, Jill, you got the first move, but what is the continuation? Okay, Daniel as well. Well done, the first move, but what is the continuation? Arthur, that's not gonna win. That's not good enough because you're gonna lose a piece if you do queen f8. Queen f7 is just losing the queen. Okay, Jill and Noam and Nathaniel, you got the first move, but what is the continuation? It's not queen a8, e8. It's Joey, you got the right move. It is actually queen to g5. Nathaniel, well done. So we're gonna go to g5, and then it doesn't matter if it goes to f7 or h8 or h5. Next move can always be queen to h5, and then he's gonna have to take our queen, and then we take back. If he goes to f7, is it better to go to f4 or h5? The answer is queen h5, because then we got the pawns connected. Although it doesn't really matter a lot in this position, but still, I would prefer queen h5 in that position. So this is why queen to e7 is a killer, because we've covered king g8 and king g6, and so you see how we force the swap of queens after those 2 moves. That only leaves king to h8, which he did, and king to h6. Let's start with king h6. How do we force the swap of queens after king h6? Okay, type in your answer after king h6. What do we do then? How do we force him into the swap after king h6? It's not that one. Then we could go to g5 again, but Arthur, you've got the best move. Justin as well. Well done. Sam, you've got one of the right ways. So Sam, well done, but Callum, that is absolutely the best move. So after king h6, the simplest thing would just be queen f8, then just force him to take immediately. But in this position, after queen e7, he decided to go king h8. Now let's see if you've got the this is going to be actually the last move of the game, because he resigned after my next move. Jill, that is correct. Sam, correct. Jill, correct. Riesh, correct. Well done. Who else can see it? This is the last move of the game. Liam, well done. Joey, well done. Okay. Anyone else? Arthur, well done. Okay. Queen to f8, and black resigned because it's forcing the swap of the queens. So you see how important it is to swap queens in a position like this, because black has no hope anymore. This pawn on c6, it's not going to become a queen, because my bishop's just going to stop it, and even if I would have to sacrifice the bishop for the pawn and king takes bishop, I'm always going to win so easily with these 2 pawns. So this is just, instead of in this position just trying to promote or something, and then it's just going to be very annoying, because he's going to give an endless amount of checks. So in this position, definitely just try to go for the swap of, force him to swap queens, and then he just resigns immediately, because he doesn't see any future in this game, and rightly so. So anyway, I think we're actually a little bit past the time that we were supposed to be. So, did I get it correct? Briash asks. I think you did. Didn't you say Queen F8? I think you did. So excellent. I think we're just gonna call it a day, as they say. And do you have any questions before we log off? Briash asks, "How old are you?" I'm 39. Joey, thank you. Good night. Thank you, Joey. So Briash, yes, I'm 39. No questions. Okay. Well, in that case, I thank you all and hope to see you someday soon. Bye bye.